आइए हम सुने विज्ञान की अनकही कहानियाँ। आइए हम सुने विज्ञान की अनसुनी कहानियाँ। एक नई दुनिया की आवाज़ आपकी आवाज़, विज्ञान की आवाज़, की आवाज़।
We bring you all a podcast series on STEM popularization, that is, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medicine, supported and catalyzed by the National Council for Science and Technology Communication, the Government of India. Program is produced by Media for Community Foundation.
This is Manjeet. Welcome back to the podcast from the Indo French Center for the Promotion of Advanced Research, also popularly known as CEFIPRA. Now let's listen to them to understand more.
My name is Desirazu N. Rao. I'm a professor at the Department of Biochemistry at the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore, in India. I'm basically a biochemist. I have studied biochemistry since my bachelor's days. I did my BSc in Delhi University, the Masters of Science at the Pantnagar University. I did my PhD at the Indian Institute of Science in 1982. After that, I went abroad for 7 years, 3 years at the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda and Maryland in the USA, 3 years at the Biocentrum, the University of Basel in Switzerland, and 1 year I did a postdoctoral stint at the University of Cambridge in the biochemistry department. And I returned to Bangalore in 1989 to join the Department of Biochemistry at the Indian Institute of Science. So I've been there since 1989. And in 2020, in August, I retired officially from the Institute of Science.
I see, sir.
Currently, I am at the Indian Institute of Science, the second campus, which is about 230 kilometers from Bangalore in a place called Chalikere, where I am the advisor of this campus and I also the convener of a teachers training program that the institute started about 10 years ago, where we actually now start training teachers, high school, the PUC level and the BSc teachers, science and mathematics teachers. And it's a teachers training program.
So,
Just before my retirement, about 3 years before that, I had this CEFIPRA project with a scientist in Paris, Fontainebleau-aux-Roses from near Paris, from the Atomic Energy Center, Pablo Radicella. Pablo Radicella is a geneticist and I'm a biochemist. So we complemented our expertise in a project where we tried to understand something very basic and important to an organism called the Helicobacter pylori, which is an organism, which is a harmless organism, which is present in all human stomach thing. And then, wanted to look at what are the things, how does the biology of this organism work. The Helicobacter pylori is an organism that is in the stomach where the pH is very, very acidic. It is not an acidophile, but it has mechanisms to overcome acid and is one of the most easily transformable bacterial species. You just have to show some DNA around it and the DNA is taken out. Every bacterium that we know of, including the Helicobacter pylori, have defense mechanisms. So when foreign DNA in the form of viral DNA or any other kind of DNA that enters Helicobacter pylori is actually chopped up by enzymes called the restriction enzymes. And the Helicobacter pylori, when the genome was sequenced, a number of restriction systems were discovered. Yet, this organism takes in all the DNA and gets integrated into its host chromosome, and that's how it survives and then manages to live in this acidic atmosphere. So we wanted to find out what is the role of these enzymes, the restriction modification enzymes, as it were, and to find out what are the factors that are important for the survival of this organism. And that is where, with Pablo Radicella in Paris at the Atomic Energy, we tried to identify factors which are important for this bacterium to survive, and how does it multiply, and how does it replicate, and how does it get integrated, foreign DNA integrated into this host chromosome. So we identified a couple of these factors, and we're still in the process of identifying more factors. And I think although the project has come to an end, we plan to develop new proposals so that we can continue with this kind of work. So the CEFIPRA was very, very generous in funding this collaborative project between the geneticist and the biochemist, geneticist in Paris, and then biochemistry being done in my laboratory in Bangalore. We trained a number of students at both ends. And I think from my own laboratory, 3 students actually went to Pablo's lab to do some work and continued after their PhD in India to do postdoctoral stint in Pablo's lab. I have visited Pablo's lab on 3 occasions because of the CEFIPRA project, where joint exchanges were possible. And Pablo has come to Bangalore 3 times. And we've had very, very fruitful interaction. We actually conducted a symposium, a conference, where we had people from other countries to come and participate. This was done in Bangalore. And the CEFIPRA was very, very generous in funding many of these activities. Wow. So that's the general background of this Indo French collaboration that I've had with Pablo Radicella. The project that Pablo and I undertook, which CEFIPRA funded it very generously, involved the identification of factors which are important for this naturally transformable organism. The Helicobacter pylori is a harmless organism, but when it becomes virulent or pathogenic, if it acquires mutations, which it does very quickly, it can become, it's a cause for gastritis, it's a positive organism for ulcers, and it's one of the only type of bacteria which causes cancer, the gastric cancer. So the organism becomes very important, and we wanted to know what are these factors which are responsible for these things, for the disease condition. First of all, to find out what are the factors for the normal biology, for the physiology, how does it survive in the stomach where there's acidic pH, and to find out conditions whether any of these factors that we've identified, how are they altered in the disease condition. On the side, my laboratory has been working on the epidemiology of this organism in India to find out Helicobacter pylori in various patients, duodenal cancer patients, duodenal ulcer patients, the gastric cancer patients, and we have done a lot of genome sequencing. A lot of analysis was done, was analyzed, and we were able to interpret because of Pablo's intervention, and to create strains of Helicobacter pylori where these factors which we identified were actually deleted, and then looked at the biology of this organism. So in that way, it was a very thorough, complete work where genetics helped us to identify factors, and we did the biochemistry to find out what are the actual biochemical reactions that some of these factors help in catalyzing these reactions. Wow. So Pablo is a well-known bacterial geneticist, and my own laboratory in Bangalore, my lab, has been working on restriction enzymes and other DNA binding, DNA enzymes that work on DNA for the past 20-25 years. So this has been a very fruitful exercise. More recently, after this project was officially done with CEFIPRA, we have identified a whole new, paradigm of this in this organism, where post-translation modification becomes very important. And it is in this post-translation modification called acetylation that we're still pursuing our interests. He does the genetics part of it. I do the biochemistry, and this has been going on, and it will be going on for some more time. Actually, I'm visiting Pablo in the next 5 days now, when I'm going to Paris because the CEFIPRA was very, very generous in funding this particular visit because of the excellent progress that we did in the last couple of years under the project. We published about 7 or 8 papers, good papers in international journals, in peer-reviewed journals, and this has helped a lot in our understanding of how this organism actually, the biology of this organism and how it helps to survive in acidic conditions. I think among all these Indo ex-country collaborations which the government of India has, by and large, it's only not because of my success with this. I think several of my colleagues all over the country feel that the Indo French project, especially by the CEFIPRA, is the most successful one. And very, very flexible, and we are able to do research without any hindrance. I think this is the unique thing about the Indo French projects. Generally, funded by CEFIPRA or CNRS or whatever it is, the CEFIPRA has been extremely generous and have been very, very supportive of this collaborative research. So I think it's a fantastic organization, a platform, and I've been telling all my junior colleagues to think of having a CEFIPRA project, identify a French collaborator. And I think the French in general, the scientists in France, are extremely pro India, and they would like to collaborate in a big way.
This episode is brought to you with the content support from CEFIPRA and the technical support from the Sparrows team. We extend our heartfelt thanks to the Director of CEFIPRA, Professor Nitin Seth and Dr. Payal, for their continuous guidance and support. Stay tuned for more episodes and thank you for joining.
आइए हम सुने विज्ञान की अनकही कहानियाँ। आइए हम सुने विज्ञान की अनसुनी कहानी।